everyone, welcome back to this channel. And in this video, we are going to be recapping the preseason games that happened on Friday, September 20th and Saturday, September 21st. We're going to start with the Friday games and then move on to the Saturday, but just to recap the final scores of what took place in all these games. So on Friday, September 20th, it was the North Bay Battalion at the Ottawa 67s, and they ended up defeating the 67s in Ottawa with a shutout of 4-0. It was the Kingston Frontenacs who came on top of the Peterborough Petes 5-2 in Kingston. The London Knights defeated the Sarnia Sting at Budweiser Gardens in London, Ontario, with a final score of 6-3. It was the Sudbury Wolves who defeated the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds at the Sudbury Community Arena with a final score of 9-4. And then to finish off Friday's preseason games, it was the Oshawa Generals who defeated the Erie Otters on the road with a final score of 5-3. And on Saturday, September 21st, it was the Brantford Bulldogs who defeated the Kitchener Rangers with a final score of 4-1 at the Brantford Civic Center. It was the Ottawa 67s who defeated the Kingston Frontenacs with a final score of 5-3. The Windsor Spitfires came out on top over the Niagara Ice Dogs with a final score of 5-3. The Sarnia Sting ended up getting their revenge over the London Knights at the Progressive Auto Sales Arena in Sarnia, Ontario, over the London Knights with a final score of 5-3. And to finish off the Saturday preseason games, it was the Peterborough Petes who defeated the Guelph Storm with a final score of 3-2. So let's recap all of the games that went down, and let's start with Friday's games. All right, we're going to start with that North Bay and Ottawa 67s game where the Battalion shut out the Ottawa 67s with a final score of 4-0. It was Charlie Larocque who ended up stopping all 19 shots for the North Bay Battalion over the Ottawa 67s. It was also Inat Pazai, Stefan Chekaharv, Jacob Therian, and Reith Smith who ended up all scoring for the North Bay Battalion in that 4-0 victory over Ottawa. This was a very low shooting game as the North Bay Battalion outshot Ottawa 19-17 in shots. So not much really happening in this game except that the North Bay Battalion ended up defeating the Ottawa 67s with a shutout of 4-0. We're going to head to the Kingston Frontenacs and Peterborough Petes game in Peterborough, where the Kingston Frontenacs defeated the Peterborough Petes with a final score of 5-2. It was also Cedric Goudon for the Kingston Frontenacs who continued to score 2 goals and add an assist in this game over Peterborough. While also for Kingston, it was Jacob Kromiak, Max Schufelt, and Nolan Butler who also ended up scoring for Kingston. Well, get this, the Kingston Frontenacs defeated the Peterborough Petes with a final score of 5-2, and as a result, it was Jacob Kromiak, Max Schufelt, and Nolan Butler who all scored for the Kingston Frontenacs, as well as Cedric Goudon, who had just a tremendous preseason game over Peterborough in this one. And not only to end there, but it was Tyler Hopkins who picked up 3 assists for Kingston, while Matthew Soto, Ethan Badima, and Gage Hayes each ended up recording 2 of their own. So very dominant performance by Kingston. In terms of the Peterborough goal scoring, it was Jonathan Malee and Francis Parrish who both scored for the Peterborough Petes. As in net for the Kingston Frontenacs to earn that victory, it was Mason Vicari who stopped 36 of 38 shots to earn that Kingston victory over Peterborough. We're going to head to Budweiser Gardens in London now, where it was the London Knights who defeated their arch rivals of the Sarnia Sting with a final score of 6-3. Well, Ethan Van Gorp, he ended up leading the London Knights to a hat-trick. I was actually watching this game on Rogers TV, and I was just shocked to see how dominant of a goal-scoring performance this was for the London Knights. I mean, this is the London Knights, so it's no surprise in anything, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of these rookies who are putting points up for themselves, which really says something. Last night on Saturday, I was actually watching the Winnipeg Jets preseason game, and I noticed a few OHL individuals who are making an appearance in the preseason game, considering there was Colby Barlow, Kevin He, and I mean, that was just for the Winnipeg Jets. but you just see why these players perform so successfully in the OHL and that they have a goal in mind to not only enhance their hockey career, but even potentially end up on an NHL team. And that's exactly what someone like Colby Barlow and Kevin He were doing last night. But when you see that Evan Van Gorp, a rookie for the London Knights, who ended up putting up a hat trick and also recording an assist for a 4-point night. This is a very successful individual that the London Knights are going to want to keep on their roster going forward. Well, also for the London Knights, it was Caden Johnson who scored and added 2 assists, while rookie Logan Hari, he had a goal and an assist, finishing with a 4+ ranking. So again, a lot of these rookies and new additions to the OHL have been proving themselves on these rosters time and time again. Well, let's look at first year blue liner in Caleb Mitchell, who also scored a goal, helping the London Knights reach to that 6-0 lead before Sarnia would put up 3 of their own. Now, in terms of the Sarnia goal scoring, it was Ryan Brown who responded with a hat trick. So he scored all of Sarnia's goals. And Ryan Brown, well, we've seen a lot of him in this preseason, and I think he's going to be very successful for the Sting organization if he can keep up his performance like what he did with the London Knights. Now, we're going to get to the Saturday game as the Sarnia Sting defeated the London Knights last night. But in terms of this game on Friday night, it was the London Knights who ended up out shooting Sarnia 36-30, while Sarnia, they went for 3 for 7 on their power play. So fairly decent power play for the Sarnia Sting. I mean, this is a team that's going up against the OHL champions of last season, the London Knights, but we're also seeing some pretty talented, remarkable players on this Sarnia roster. Now, in terms of the London Knights goaltending, because we saw that former Peterborough P goaltender in Michael Simpson, who played for the London Knights last year, he's also been part of the Ottawa Senators organization in the preseason. So we could see maybe him making an NHL appearance in the future. But in terms of the London Knights goaltending, it was Alexei Medvedev who ended up stopping all 13 shots for the London Knights, as pretty much he was the face of this London Knights team going into this game over Sarnia. And well, the London Knights continue to be on an unstoppable run as they have now made their preseason record of 3-0 as they go into yesterday's game on Saturday. They would end up falling 3-1 in their preseason record, but overall, very successful win for the London Knights in this game. Okay, we're going to go off to Sudbury, where it was the Sudbury Wolves who defeated the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds with the final score of 9-4. I was actually watching this game televised on Friday night. What a great call by the Sudbury Wolves play-by-play commentators. Great production team that they have out there in Sudbury. And as a result, it was Sudbury who came away with the victory as they ended up out shooting Sault Ste. Marie 42-15. I feel like that's like an NHL video game kind of simulation, as they ended up scoring 9 goals of their own. So probably not the result that Sault Ste. Marie was looking for on Friday night, but at least they were able to score 4 goals considering that they were on the road to play their arch rivals. Well, it was Chase Coughlin who ended up leading the offensive charge with a goal and 4 assists for Sudbury, while it was Hudson Chitteroni who had a goal and 3 assists for this game, while Lucas Di Giatomasino ended up scoring twice for the Sudbury Wolves in this game. Now, if we take it back to Chase Coughlin, he ended up putting away for 9 points in this individual preseason. Now let's look over to Blake Clayton for the team, and he ended up finishing with a goal and 2 assists for himself, while it was also blue liner Nick DeAngelis who had a goal and an assist on his end. So very successful finish and performance for these players for Sudbury. Well, what happened on the Sault Ste. Marie end of things? Well, it was 2025 NHL draft prospect in Brady Martin who ended up having a goal and assist for Sault Ste. Marie. And well, what happened with the Sudbury power play? Well, they ended up going 4 for 7 on the power play to earn that victory over Sault Ste. Marie. And like I was saying, I was watching this game televised on TV on Friday night, and you could just tell that the lamp was lighting, the sticks were coming alive, and everything was just going right for this Wolves franchise on Friday night. And to finish off the evening on Friday night, it was the Oshawa Generals who defeated the Erie Otters. This was actually in Dunnville. It was Oshawa who ended up coming out with a 4-1 lead as they helped defeat the Erie Otters with a final score of 5-3 at the Dunnville Memorial Arena. It was also Owen Griffin who had another strong performance for Oshawa, help leading with a goal and assist for this club. Harrison Franzen, Matthew Buckley, Brooks Rogowski, and Luke Torrance all had helpers in this game, leading the Oshawa Generals over the Erie Otters. Luke Torrance, I'm a big fan of him on the Oshawa Generals roster, as well as Matthew Buckley, because they've been making an appearance last season and the season before with this Oshawa Generals club. Oshawa and Barrie, two teams that I happen to see the most. And whenever I get OHL tickets, Brantford just happens to be the road team I happen to watch all the time. So as a result, Oshawa, everyone on that roster is pretty much given themselves the capability to prove themselves time and time again that they belong on this roster. Brett Hammond, he ended up scoring twice for the Erie Otters, while he also joined Alexis DeVeo in the goal scoring department. The Erie Otters, I mean, they did lose this game, but we're also seeing some great performance offensively from the Erie Otters. Even though they were down in this game, they were able to build themselves a little bit closer to that goal scoring, putting up two more to make the final score 5-3. Well, in net for both goaltenders in this game, it was former Wesley Applejack at the PJHL, Noah Bender, who ended up stopping 27 of 30 shots to earn that victory for Oshawa, while Noah Earldon, he ended up stopping 27 for the Erie Otters. So both great rookie goaltenders who were able to put up a big performance in between the pipes for these two clubs. And I think we can expect a lot of these goaltenders and just players overall as we get closer to the regular season happening this coming Wednesday. And now for Saturday night's games, it was the Ottawa 67s who defeated the Kingston Frontenacs with a final score of 5-3 at the Cornwall Civic Complex. Now, like I said in my previous video, could we be seeing these two clubs playing in a future OHL franchise arena if the OHL ends up expanding or maybe possibly relocating to a city like Cornwall, Ontario? Obviously, the divisions are going to realign again with Brantford moving out of the East Division, Cornwall moving in. We're going to have to see if Cornwall ends up taking that spot in the OHL. Now, I actually wanted to point out something because I've actually worked with both the PJHL and the OJHL. Now, if anyone's not familiar with what the two leagues are, the Provincial Junior Hockey League is a hockey league that's lower than the OJHL, which is the Ontario Junior Hockey League. So you have the NHL is the highest ranked. Then you have the AHL, which is the affiliate for the NHL, the American Hockey League. Then you go down to the OHL, which I mean you could count the CHL with WHL and QMJHL. And then below that you have the OJHL, which is the Ontario Junior Hockey League. And then just below that you have the PJHL, which is the Provincial Junior Hockey League, and that specifically is for Ontario. Now, I wanted to mention something for the OJHL. I actually just found this out this morning. So I've been following a lot of the OJHL in my childhood. I mean, I grew up in Markham, so I was following the Markham Royals, the Stouffville Spirits, and the Newmarket Hurricanes before they relocated to Milton, the Aurora Tigers. So after the Newmarket Hurricanes relocated to Milton, it was the Whitby Fury who ended up relocating to Haliburton. And then I recently discovered this morning that it was the Brantford 99ers who relocated to King City. So apparently, King City now has an OJHL team, which is amazing to see. In terms of the Brantford Bulldogs game happened at the Brantford Civic Center, the Bulldogs came out on top over the Kitchener Rangers with final score of 4-3 in a shootout. So the Kitchener Rangers, obviously we've known all preseason that they've been winning in shootouts. They just couldn't pull it off over the Brantford Bulldogs this time, and it was Brantford who got the win over their arch rivals. Another close game that happened last night, it was the Peterborough Petes who defeated the Guelph Storm with a final score of 3-2. This one was in regulation, but this one was happening at the Canvan Monaghan Community Center. While also happening, it was the London Knights who were at Progressive Auto Sales Arena in Sarnia, Ontario. But this time, Sarnia got the victory with a final score of 5-3, as Sarnia was able to get that revenge after losing at Budweiser Gardens on Friday night. And then finally, at the Atlas Tube Center, it was the Windsor Spitfires who defeated the Niagara Ice Dogs with a final score of 5-3. So let's recap of what went down in these games. We're going to start with the Kingston Frontenacs and Ottawa 67s game. This game was obviously in Cornwall, Ontario. Well, the 67s, they ended up leading the Kingston Frontenacs to a 4-0 lead. Now, it was the Ottawa 67s who actually had a 4-0 lead over Ottawa before the Kingston Frontenacs would end up adding 3 goals of their own. And it was obviously Ottawa who ended up out shooting Kingston 30-15. We had a team that really outshot their opponents with a pretty decent lead of only leading by 2 goals for a 5-3 victory. Well, it was Philip Ekberg, Will Guerrier, and Chris Barlas who all had goals and an assist on their end, while it was Nick Whitehead who picked up 2 assists for the Ottawa 67s last night. Van Williamson, he had a goal and an assist for the Kingston Frontenacs, while it was former Barrie Colt, Ben Pickle. Very nice goal. I was watching this clip that the Kingston Frontenacs posted on their Instagram. Oh my goodness, Ben Pickle, what a phenomenal individual there. And they ended up signing to this Frontenacs team. So obviously it was Ben Pickle, Ethan Weir. They also scored for the Kingston Frontenacs, as well as Van Williamson, who scored a goal with an assist of his own. So very dominant performance for Kingston. I personally think Kingston should have won this game. The offense was just too strong for the Kingston Frontenacs to handle from the Ottawa 67s. Well, in terms of the goaltending for this game, it was Colin McKenzie and Jaden Nelson who split the game in the crease for Ottawa, while it was Kingston Mason Vicari who made 25 saves despite the loss. So overall, a very close game, even though the shots weren't that close, considering that Ottawa outshoot Kingston by 15 shots. I would say that this game was much closer than I think a lot of people expected it to be. Let's go to Brantford, where it was the Bulldogs who defeated the Kitchener Rangers with a final score of 4-3 in a shootout, except, well, this time Kitchener actually lost the shootout. So it was Brantford who actually had a 3-1 lead before Kitchener would end up tying the game, forcing the shootout, and that's where Lucas Moore would end up putting the deciding goal in the net for the Brantford Bulldogs. It was Blair Long, Zachary Lavoie, and Noah Nelson who all scored for the Brantford Bulldogs, while Jake O'Brien had 2 assists for Brantford on Saturday night. Jake O'Brien, he also ended up leading the preseason for the Bulldogs with 10 points of his own in just 5 games with a record of 2, 8, and 10. So great overall performance by O'Brien. Just a great individual. We're going to have to really keep our eye on going into next season. It was Adrian Misajelvic. He ended up scoring twice for the Kitchener Rangers, while the score ended up being tied at 3 at the 3:07 marker of the third period. So then again, very close game. I think that's probably what the Guelph and Peterborough game almost ended up coming down to. We'll recap that game in a little bit. But just in terms of this game in particular, a very close game again. And it was the Brantford Bulldogs who ended up coming out on top for this victory. Justin Botano, he ended up scoring for Kitchener too, while Tanner Lamb ended up picking up a pair of assists for the Rangers despite the loss. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this goaltender for Brantford, Ryerson Linders. He was just acquired by Brantford just a short while ago from the Brampton Steelheads. He had a terrific season last year for Mississauga, and he ended up making 25 saves after coming back from the Buffalo Sabres camp that he was just at. So great performance. He's continuing to prove himself time and time again, whether he's in Buffalo or Brantford or even when he was in Mississauga. He was proving himself over and over again in any game that he ends up playing in net. Well, in terms of the Kitchener goaltending, it was Jackson Parsons who made 27 saves for Kitchener. Despite the loss for him, though, he's had an incredible preseason himself. And not only that, but he had a terrific season last year. And I think we might see Jackson Parsons. I think he might almost be like a Ryerson Leanders or maybe like a Jacob Oster in the future. I think that's what we might be seeing from Jackson Parsons going forward in the future, depending on what the future holds for each of these goaltenders. Well, despite the Kitchener loss, I mean, they had a great preseason, winning essentially all of their games this year. In preseason, in a shootout, their record ended up going from 5-0-0-1. So, despite that shootout loss, I think Kitchener can really be proud of themselves for how they were able to finish off their preseason very strong and very reliable when it came to both their goal scoring offensively, defensively, and their goaltending overall, which is a tremendous, tremendous performance for these Kitchener Rangers. Okay, we're going to go to Millbrook, Ontario. This game was between the Peterborough Petes and the Guelph Storm, and it was Peterborough who came on top in a very close game. This one didn't go to a shootout, but Peterborough ended up defeating Guelph with a final score of 3-2. Well, after Peterborough had a 3-0 lead, it was Guelph who ended up scoring 2 goals of their own, despite not coming up with that tying goal. It was Quentin Page, Jonathan Malee, and Francis Parrish who all scored for the Peterborough Petes. And even though Peterborough won this game, they were actually outshot 38-32. So even though the shots per se weren't in Peterborough's favor, it was Peterborough who were able to get 3 goals past that Guelph goaltender. And that Guelph goaltender is no other than Braden Gilseppi. Now, in terms for Guelph, it was Alex Moline who scored at the 8:48 marker of the third period before Parker Snellgrove. He would end up drawing the game to 1. So it was Alex Moline who scored the first goal for Guelph, and then Parker Snellgrove, he would end up scoring that second goal for Guelph, even though they couldn't end up pulling out that tying marker. Well, think about this. Guelph had 10 power plays, and as a result, they didn't score on any of them. They went 0 for 10 on the power play, while Peterborough also finished 0 for 8 on the power play. So power plays just weren't effective in this game for either team. And even though Peterborough was able to come out with this victory, I think the Guelph Storm, if they were able to score on maybe 1 or 2 of these power plays, I mean, you also got to look at the Peterborough defensive side of things, but if Guelph was able to even get a goal or 2 on one of those power plays, Guelph could have really came away with this win, except they couldn't score on any 10 of those power plays. So I think that's also a reason why Peterborough ended up winning the game and Guelph couldn't end up making a comeback. Well, in terms of the goaltending for this game, it was Zach Bowen who stopped all 36 of 38 shots to earn that victory for Peterborough, while it was Guelph's Braden Gilseppi and Colin Ellsworth who split the time in the crease for the Guelph Storm. Well, it's a rematch from Friday's night against the London Knights and the Sarnia Sting, except this time it was in Sarnia. And it was the Sarnia Sting who came away on home ice with a final score victory of 5-3. Sarnia ended up leading the game 4-0 before London ended up coming back with 3 straight goals of their own, as it was Ruslan Karamov who ended up putting that empty net marker in the net for the Sarnia Sting to lead Sarnia to victory over their arch rivals of London. It was Easton Wainwright, Alexandro DeLorio, Tyson Doucette, and Mitch Young who all scored for the Sarnia Sting, while it was blue liner James Barr who had 2 assists in that game. Rene Van Bommel, he ended up scoring a pair of goals in the third period as it was Henry Buzateswick who ended up scoring with 36 seconds left in that second period. Nick Zerzika, he ended up stopping 16 of 19 shots for the Sarnia Sting, as London's goaltender Owen Wilmore, he made 21 saves despite the loss in Sarnia. And to finish off Saturday's preseason games, it was the Windsor Spitfires who defeated the Niagara Ice Dogs with a final score of 5-3. This game, though, was in Lakeshore, another small community rink that these OHL teams were playing in. It was Ethan Belchez who continued his preseason with a shorthanded goal and 2 assists in the Windsor 5-3 victory over the Niagara Ice Dogs. It was also Belchez's 3-point night that also gave him 9 points over 5 games in this preseason. And as a result, it ended up helping the Windsor Spitfires lead to victory over the Ice Dogs. It was Jean-Christophe Lemayu, Jack Greenwell, Noah Morneau, and Ethan Martin who all scored for the Windsor Spitfires as well in this game. Mike Levin scored twice for the Niagara Ice Dogs, while Ryan Robrook, he also ended up scoring past the Niagara goaltender, and Braden Waslin, he had 2 assists in this game as well. Joey Costanzo, he made 35 saves for the Windsor Spitfires in this game to end the exhibition night and preseason for the Windsor Spitfires, leading to a perfect record of 5-0-0-0. And with the Windsor Spitfires finishing dead last year, I don't think any of us would have expected Windsor to have a perfect 5-0-0-0 record to finish off their preseason this year. Great performance overall. And those were some of the recaps that happened on both Friday and Saturday nights for this preseason. We only have 1 day left of the preseason. It's happening on Sunday, September 22nd, and we have the North Bay Battalion at the Owen Sound Attack. At 5:30 p.m., we have the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds at the Saginaw Spirit at the Dow Event Center, and then, well, on Wednesday, September 25th, the regular season gets started as we start with the Windsor Spitfires at the Dow Event Center to play the Saginaw Spirit. And then on September 26th, on the Thursday at 7:05 p.m., we have the Kingston Frontenacs playing on the road in Peterborough. So lots to look forward to. And this is just a recap of what took place for those past 2 day preseason games. But let me know what you thought of all of these games and what was the most surprising victory for you. Well, despite Kitchener losing in that one shootout game last night over Brantford, I was really surprised to see that Kingston got all of their victories in a shootout consecutively. And not only that, that Windsor also went 5-0-0-0 to start the preseason, the team that finished dead last in the season last year. So that's just a little recap of what went on around the Ontario Hockey League preseason for the past 2 days. But as we get closer to the regular season, be sure to let me know what you think and what you are expecting as we get closer for all of these 20 OHL franchises. I'm also going to be making a special announcement soon on October 1st. That's regard to this channel in particular, and could we see a new channel name making an appearance as we look to expand junior hockey and just maybe professional hockey in itself. So be sure to look out for that as well. But until then, be sure to like this video, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you again soon.